As Mr. Nutt talked about, I am Mr. Ryan, I'm one of the school counselors, and today we're going to kind of start talking about how to utilize time, how to utilize your senior year to help you get prepared for what comes after high school. We're going to kind of draw the roadmap, make sure that you guys have what you need to succeed, and kind of the plans. There's a lot of information that's going to be coming at you, and I know a lot of you guys are in different places and situations, so just please make sure that you kind of take what's useful to you about where you're at, and if there is something that is not useful to you, that you kind of just maybe file it in the back of your mind. The next thing that I talk about might be applicable to you. So it's kind of all over the place. It's a lot of information. What I will say is a lot of this is going to be summed up in a meeting with your counselor. So counselors all want to meet with you just to kind of figure out where you are, figure out how we can help, figure out kind of the next steps for you as we go. Okay, so we're really talking about how we make steps and how we go forward. And this quote kind of sums it up. And it's not about having all the answers. I mean, how many of you guys know exactly where you're going to be and you're 100% sure you're going to be there in 10 years? Yeah, nobody knows, right? And so it's about being able to kind of understand your own self, your own opportunities, and then pivot when appropriately and taking the right choices when we're there. So it's really just about doing the best you can day by day and focusing on a large goal that you have, and making sure that you take steps every day to make sure that that goal is achieved. That's really kind of what all of this is about, right? There's a lot of different ways where you can kind of go after high school. How many guys have thought about or have a plan, like a scaffolding of what you're going to do after high school? Okay. All right. Most of you do. That's great. Anybody care to share options? Like, this is kind of what I'm thinking, where I want to go, like what I want to do. Yeah.
You're going like CLC for 2 years and then transferring out to an in-state.
Okay.
Going to an in-state.
Yeah. So college, possibly 2-year route option to a 4-year option. Yeah.
I'm planning on majoring in theater, minoring in teaching, and going. I'm hoping for in-state, just for a cheaper option.
Yeah. So theater and teaching, seeing where that takes you. Ideally in-state, possibly not, though. Depends on the options. Okay. Anybody else care to share? What I would say is there's a ton of options. 90+% of students from Lakes say that they want to go to a 2 or 4-year school directly after high school. So that's why you see a lot of college stuff push, but there is a ton of different options in the workforce, in apprenticeships, in the military. There's a lot of different options where you can go and be successful and find options that work for you. This is about you understanding yourself, becoming self-aware, and then saying, these are the options that fit me. Anybody thought about college debt and this is going to be crazy? Yeah, there's a lot of quick hands there. It's totally fine to look at life and be like, college debt scares me so much, I don't want to do it. Or my skill set is not for college, or my skill set is best fit for someplace else. Absolutely appropriate. You can be making $50,000 a year, in 12 months, while other people are spending $50,000 a year at college. It's absolutely possible. What I would say is, as counselors, we want to sit down and help you walk through that. And if you're just like, you know what, college is not where I want to be, I want to do something else with my life, we have opportunities and options and ways for you to get there. Okay. Just want you to know that workforce is a viable option. It's nice. There's a lot of things that, it's not just you go out and start digging ditches. There's more opportunities than that right now. Just, ready to go. Also, gap year, Peace Corps, all that stuff, volunteer, all that stuff is options too. But like I said, the majority of students at Lake say 2 4-year colleges where they want to go. Doesn't mean you have to go there to be successful. It just means that that's where a lot of people are at. And like I said, this is going to be a lot of information about the college process and what you need to do and steps you need to take. So like I said, some of you might be just snoozing in the back, and I get it. But there could be some other things. There's some graduation stuff we talk about in here as well. Okay. The ASVAB. Anybody heard of the ASVAB before? Okay. What do we know about the ASVAB?
It's a military test.
A military test. Yeah. Anything else we know about it? Okay. Excellent. I get to teach. Great. It's the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Test. So it is put on by the military, but you have to still hand it to them. It's not like you take it and then they start giving you all of this like information about the military. You still have to say, here you go, military, I want you to have this information. And it is an aptitude test. How many of you guys know what aptitude is? Or anybody know what the difference between aptitude and interest is?
Aptitude is what you'd be apt at, right?
Yes, aptitude is what you're apt to do. So it's more about what your skills are, and a lot of the things that we've done in Naviance over the last couple years, specifically freshman, sophomore year, if you can remember that far back, is more interest-based. I'm interested in these types of things. I'm interested in this, right? I am interested in golf, but Mr. Naughton can attest, I am not great. Okay, I am interested in that, but it's not a skill set that I would ever be able to make a livable wage on. So the aptitude test is more about, these are skills that you can take and you can say like, this is a third party saying, hey, you're good at this, and we're not looking at you, in any other light except the light that we look at everybody else, and we can say you're skilled at this. And so you might look at something and be like, I get math. I'm apt in math or English, but it's not something I really want to do. I don't want to be a math or English teacher. They'll give you some other careers and other options as well. If you are are thinking military as an option, whether it's like direct service, or whether it's the reserves, or whether it's ROTC, this is absolutely something that you're going to want to reach out to and do. October 6th, you get to do it here at school. There's a follow-up kind of walk through what it all means. Like I said, you don't have to be doing military to do it. You are the one that has to present it to the military. But it's also kind of a great way to say, like, I've always thought I'm really good at this. I wonder if I really, truly am. And so that just kind of gives you some feedback from a third party that really, like, it's not there to, like, pump you up or knock you down. It's just here to say, like, this is kind of the response back, okay? So it goes through a bunch of stuff. I would say make sure you take that, make sure you look at it. If you're kind of like, I still don't know what I want to major in or what I want to do for a career, this is a great place to start. It's a great place to get that information instead of being like, oh, maybe I'll just think about it longer. And, it just kind of, it's a nice way to say, like, here's some kind of quick places to start. Okay. As we talk college, right, there's a lot of different ways you can go. How many of you guys have had your feet on a college campus within the last, year? Okay. Where have you guys gone? Where have you gone? Michigan. There's some other people back there. Michigan? Where else? You can just shout them out. Purdue? ISU? U of I? Yeah, so a lot of different places, a lot of different areas. Somebody in an earlier class was in Washington. Somebody in an earlier class was in Tennessee. Like, there's all these different places. There's 4,000 schools that you could potentially go to in, the United States and Canada. Okay, so that's a lot of research to do. They're all over the place, a lot of different reasons. Anybody, I don't want to know the college or the school, anybody walk onto a campus and immediately go, this is gross, I don't want to be here. I don't want to spend the rest of my time here. Okay. Why? Don't tell me what school, but why did you get that feeling? What was the reason?
Remember when some of the dorms were really gross, they weren't well managed?
Yeah.
There were bugs in the bathroom, and I was like, nope.
Yep.
And food hall was also really gross.
Okay. So just general cleanliness of things is not up to the standard that you want. Fair enough. Yeah. Did I see a hand in the back too?
When I went, there was no designated campus. It was just throughout the city, the school was there.
Okay. So just kind of location and how it worked with the city around it. You wanted kind of this is school, this is city, and this is not, it just didn't work for you. Okay. Any other reasons that you guys had like walked on campus and were just like, nah, not for me? So obviously there's a couple different reasons why all of this stuff works. And all of you guys are your own individual human being. You're at your own place in this journey. You're at your own place, where you like, what you're looking for. And so there's a bunch of schools that will fit where you are. When you start this process, it's really about that self-awareness that we talked about, right? What do I like? What am I good at? What do I need to help me learn? And all those things. So it's really the great place to start is with yourself. You can be selfish about this a little bit, right? You can say like, no, it's about me, right? What do I like? What do I want to do? So there's a lot of different places to start. And if you don't know what major you want, if you don't know what career you want, but you know what, I definitely want to be in a place where there is no snow, that's a great place to start. Or my grandma lives, here, so I want to be my grandma, that's fine. You can kind of start there. There's a lot of different options to kind of get you just focused down the road a little bit. The college supermatch and Naviance, how many of you guys remember that or have been on there? Yeah, okay. If you are still like, I don't know where to go, I don't know where to start, the college supermatch and Naviance is a great place to kind of get that process started. Okay. When we look at types of school, we really kind of categorize them into three areas: safety, target, and reach. Who might, if we're kind of talking about college admissions, college entrance stuff, what do we think we mean by safety school? School that is, yes.
You could definitely get in there.
Yeah, school that you could definitely get into there. Do you have any way of like kind of putting some metrics on that? Like how would you kind of define that a little bit further besides just getting into? Okay, fair enough. You don't have to. That's a great way to describe it, but the way that counselors would describe it is if your academic profile, so like your SAT or GPA is like above the middle, like 50 percentile, right? So if you're like, here's the average person that ends up going to this school, and my academic statistics are like above that by like not just barely, but by a little, like by a substantial amount. The other piece that is in kind of safety, target, and reach is finances. Okay, how many guys have had conversations with someone in your family or life about college finances already? Keep your hands raised if all of them have been great conversations. Yeah, sometimes they're a little rough. So finances are a piece of it too. And I would say cost definitely impacts it, but it's one of the things that you can kind of look at last is get schools that fit what you're looking to do and how you want to live your life, and then kind of look at costs. There will be other schools that fit that mold and maybe are at a different price point for whatever reason, okay? So safety, yes, a school that you could get into that like you're pretty certain you're going to get into and afford, okay? If we say, what's a target school? What do we think we mean by that? Yeah.
That's like a school you think you can get to, but like you're still gonna have to put like work in.
Yeah. So it's maybe not like a guarantee, but you're like, I'm pretty sure like what they say they're looking for is pretty much me, right? Like, and I'm really kind of like on target here, right? And then a reach school. What do we think a reach school is?
So it's like a school you probably wouldn't get into, but you might have a chance of getting into.
Yeah, so there's a lot of schools that, for whatever reason, are reach schools. Like we talked about finances, we also talked about acceptance. There's a lot of like Ivy League schools that turn down perfect SATs and valedictorians and people that you're just like, oh my gosh, they're amazing students. How could they not get into this school? But that's because they're really highly selective schools, and they can say like, no, we're looking for something that's a little bit different than just are you really, 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 really book smart? There's other things that they look for. So some of the highly selective schools are reaches. Some of the schools that you might not think are reaches around us are reaches just because they need to pull from certain, they have to kind of meet certain demographics. Like they need 50% of their incoming student body to come from that state. And that school is not in Illinois, so they need to kind of like fill in the gaps around that, okay? So and then obviously we talked about finances. So if you look at a school and you're like, I'm right there, it's a target school in every single way possible, except for finances, it might be a reach. And what we would say is absolutely apply to that school. If you're like, this is a school that I know I would be successful at, it's just going to be like a little difficult. I might have to like drive Uber and like do some other things to kind of make ends meet, but it would be worth it. Then yeah, that's a reach school and that's okay. We love it when you have at least one target, one safety, or one of each, or only one, right? If you have either a target or a reach, that's great. Or target or a safety, sorry. Or if you get to, like if you're all reach schools, if you're like, I have applied to 10 schools and they're all reaches, that's when like my anxiety just skyrockets, right? Because every year there's students that apply to a lot of schools and by February, March, are waitlisted for all of them, and they're like, well, now I don't know what I'm going to do. So it's really that conversation with your counselor about how can we appropriately apply to the right amount of schools that are in kind of the right, buckets for you to kind of get we want you to go to school. That's where you want to be. We want to help you find a way to get there, but we want to make sure that it is something that like statistically has a chance of happening, right? Or a good statistical chance of happening, I should say. Okay. 3 to 5 is ideal. If you have more or less, if you're like, look, I have 2 schools, they're both targets, and I know that I'm gonna like go to one of them, like that's perfectly fine. I would say not the more the merrier, but that 3 to 5 range definitely is kind of a common area where students kind of have a lot of choice and they have a lot of like good options for themselves. Once you start getting above that, it just kind of gets more confusing. Okay. Any questions about that? All right, social media. This tweet is about some athletes, so it applies to some of us. But I do want you to know that colleges all over the United States are looking at social media stuff. Okay, so just please make sure that you are conscious about what you're putting out there. There are schools that have individual people where one of their sole jobs is to research applicants' social media pages. Like that's what they do. And so just know that there's a lot of opportunities to be gained at this level and what you're doing, but there's also very quickly an opportunity to lose those shots. And we definitely want to make sure that you're not losing an opportunity based on something that you tweeted or something that, that you put out into the world that maybe wasn't the best idea to do. So just make sure you're keeping yourself on track there. When we talk about making sure you get all of kind of the senior year checklist, make sure you have driver's ed. Okay. How many of you guys have been to graduation before? Okay. You might not have noticed it, but every year we have it at Polyfield. There is an individual outside the chain link fence, and they're just watching. And it's always the person that didn't hand in their driver's ed form because it's a requirement to graduate. And I know it's them because there's always when they're holding onto the chain link fence, there is a single tear that drips down their cheek. And that's how I know that they are the one student that senior year that did not hand in driver's ed and thus could not graduate. Okay? So please make sure you get your driver's ed form in. If you did it with us through the school, it's on your transcript. You can check your transcript by going into Infinite Campus, under Reports, and Transcripts. Okay, it needs to be on that transcript. If you did it outside, great. We just need that form, that completion form, right? Definitely don't want you guys to be that person outside the chain link fence with that single tear as all your classmates walk across stage because you didn't do driver's ed. You can also check that transcript to make sure that that all the grades that you thought you got are accurately portrayed. If you're doing cum laude, make sure that all that stuff gets in there. That's not on your transcript, but you can either reach out to your counselor or with Bowen. They'll walk you through kind of what you need. Make sure all those forms get filled out. There's appeal forms, which are for certain situations. So just when you sit down with your counselor, make sure if you have questions about cum laude, that you are asking them. Okay. Obviously, we talked about just this being your senior year. There's a lot going on. When you are kind of looking at all this, my advice to seniors is time is your most valuable asset. So use it wisely. Spend it wisely. Spend it with people you know you will get a good return on. Spend it doing things that you know will kind of benefit you for the long run. So just make use of it. Be good with it. And FAFSA. How many people know what the FAFSA is? What is it?
Like how much you get, you fill it out with your like parents' tax stuff, and then
Yeah.
like how much the state helps with college and whatever.
Yep. Yeah. It's the federal government kind of does it, and it's the free application. So how much do you pay for it?
$0.
$0. It is a graduation or is a requirement for graduation. There is another form, non-participation form, that you could fill out. However, if you are going college university route, a lot of colleges like to have that FAFSA form filled out. You do use your parents' tax information from the year previous, so you don't have to. It's really just about a family contribution, kind of what they do. I know a lot of anybody else have older brothers or sisters that have kind of like filled that out for, like, you parents have done it already, maybe once or twice, a couple of you. We do have a fair amount of students and families that are like, we're not filling it out because we don't get any money back. This is a little dark, but it filling out the FAFSA is maybe more of like an insurance policy. You know, through COVID, we've seen jobs are not as stable as we think they are. And if a college or university is like, you know, you tell them I lost this income, sometimes they'll be like, we can cover that gap. If you haven't filled out the FAFSA, they might be like, well, I don't know how much you made before, so I don't know how much you're making now. So like, I don't know like what to do. If you fill out the FAFSA, there's a definite thing that says taxes for this year were this, now it's this, and we can probably help cover that gap a little bit more, okay? So it's an insurance policy. It's a little, like I said, it's a little dark, but you're kind of protecting yourself against one of the worst possible scenarios, okay? We will talk about this more. There's you can start filling it out October 1st. There's a FAFSA workshop. There's a financial aid workshop like in late September, early October. So just look out for those dates as well, okay? All right, as we go forward, that's kind of all of the graduation information that you need to kind of know before we get going on specifically what college and universities are looking for and how to go about doing it. Any questions up to now about like what you guys need to be set to graduate from Lakes Community High School? Excellent, covered it all. I'm just crushing it, Mr. Nunn. All right, these first two are going to be a little bit kind of individualized, and then the bottom three are going to kind of be in one like group together. So we'll start with the first one there. And if you have a way of organizing all the colleges and universities or career options that you're looking at, whether it be apprenticeships, whatever, this is option one that you can use. If you have a way of doing it yourself, that's great. If not, that's that's fine. But you can use this, and it's really kind of nice because it has application deadlines, and so you can kind of walk through and make sure that you have everything kind of squared and organized. What kind of application type it is. I know there's like a like if it's a reach, target, safety, that way you can kind of organize everything together. And it's kind of nice to have all this stuff and just to kind of have it organized and like in one place for you to kind of look at. I would say it's kind of nice to share this document with somebody who is either helping you prep or plan for it. And I would also say it's okay to share that view only with that individual. That way you are the one kind of in control of what's happening and what's going on, and they can kind of see progress. So if you're like, I know Grandpa's going to make sure that I'm applying to these things, and I want to make sure that he knows what I'm doing, that's great. If it's a parent, like that's okay to like view only, just to kind of make sure you have control of it. Side note, we will send this presentation out to you later today, so you'll have the links and everything. I'm not going to like expect you to like know where this stuff is. So we'll send a link with some other stuff, with all this stuff on there too, okay? Common App. How many guys have started a Common App application? Okay. Talk me through it. Easy, not easy? Not easy? Don't like it? Or don't want to talk about it? Either one's fine.
It's not easy.
It's not easy?
No.
What's difficult about it?
The prompts are really big.
The prompts are really big. Yep.
What do you mean, like, in terms of what the length that they're requiring, or do you say vague or big?
Vague.
Vague.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, vague. Yes. Some of them are vague. I know you guys talked a little bit about some other prompts earlier and kind of how wonky they are, and for lack of a better term. Yeah. So what I would say is, if you're applying for a school and there's some like vague questions that you just don't know where to go, absolutely sit down with your counselor. We'd love to kind of sit there and say, hey, this is kind of maybe a direction you could take. This is kind of where you could go. While you end up you're the one that does go to college and takes the exams and goes to the classes. It's a team sport, and we're here to help kind of navigate what colleges are looking for. So if you do have that vagueness in your application, totally understand. We're here to help kind of clarify that a little bit, because there are some different ones for sure. The Common App is one of the most appropriately named things on the internet. It is literally just a common application for upwards of 800 colleges and universities. So you can kind of fill out the maybe like generic name, stats, classes, activity stuff. But then once you get into the prompts, there are some that want one prompt, some that want like 1,000 prompts, all that stuff. If you are applying Common App for 3 or more schools, that's probably a good place to do it. Or like if you have 3 or more schools that are Common App, that's a good place to do it. Just kind of saves time. And then you will have to connect your Naviance to your Common App account. There's a quick video that will show you how to do that. Just because we send it from Naviance to Common App to your school, the transcripts and stuff like that. So we just got to make sure that there's an avenue to do that. Anybody apply to a school that just uses their school-specific stuff, like just their school-specific application? Sometimes they are a little bit quicker and easier. Sometimes they have fewer essays. Sometimes they don't, but that's just kind of, generalities. Common App has a few more essays and things like that. Okay. Transcripts. Every school will need your transcript, unless they are a self-report school. Okay. Who knows what a self-report school is? Anybody want to take a guess? Yes.
They just like look it up and kind of find it themselves.
Kind of, you just report it yourself. So like you report your grades and they just take you at your word. U of I is one of these schools. University of Iowa is one of these schools. So if you apply to those schools, you don't have to get a transcript sent until your final transcript and you are saying, I want to go there. And they're saying, we want you here. And then everything works out together. We kind of put it together. What do you think happens if you're like, you know what, I know I got a C in these classes, but I'm just going to mark down a B? What do you think? How do you think they would respond to that? Good or bad? Yeah. It doesn't happen very often, but in the times that they find that students are not representing themselves appropriately, they just lose that opportunity to go to that university, because they will get that final transcript and they'll kind of compare it to what you say you did. So obviously be honest and be truthful, and that's kind of the best way to go. Okay. So transcripts, there's a Google form you'll have to fill out for every school. If you apply to 4 schools, you will have to fill out that form 4 different times. Just kind of makes it nice and easy for us to make sure we have all the documentation that we need so that we can represent you appropriately. All right, the SAT. You guys have taken the SAT last spring on that glorious day. There is a lot going on with that. They do have 4 free sends, so if you sent out the SAT results to schools, they have it. It is a graduation requirement, so if you didn't take it in the spring, you will have to take it this upcoming spring. If you want to take another test, you absolutely have the ability to do that. You can go to collegeboard.com or .org and set that up. Like I said, you can send scores for free. If you have had any conversations about test optional, that is something you can also take a look at. Most schools are test optional or have some type of test optional formula. The best thing to do is kind of contact that school. They'll let you know. And if you're thinking test optional, like do I send, do I not send, the best advice I can give you is if you are really stoked about your scores, I would send them. If you are like a little weary about it, I would not. On the other end of the application is an individual, a human being who is looking at your holistic application, and if they don't see an SAT score, they won't put it into their factoring. They don't look at it not being there as a negative. They just tend to focus more on other things. There were a lot of schools in the last 2 years that have said we were thinking about test optional, but COVID pushed us to be test optional. So know that there's a lot of schools that are really, really like truly focused on the holistic review and being test optional. Supporting documents, there's really two that you need to worry about in all of this. One is the letter of recommendation from a teacher, and the other is your essay. So you'll talk about the essay in your English class with your English teacher. There really is just the focus is making sure that you write about something that you might have struggled with, found a solution to, and now are implementing in your day-to-day life. It should be 25% of the essay kind of explaining the problem, and then about 75% of the essay really talking about your solution, how you're going about solving this problem, how you're kind of using it to motivate yourself, things like that. The letter of recommendation from a teacher is a few-step process. One is you need to talk to a teacher face-to-face. Make sure that you connect with them, ask them if they will write a letter. Teachers absolutely have the right to say no. If a teacher says no, it could be for a couple different options, a couple different reasons. One is if you ask them the day before the deadline, or don't give them 3 weeks. Our teachers are human beings. They have lives. They want to make sure they write a good letter for you, and they want to make sure that you, are represented appropriately. So they can say no if they feel they don't have enough time to do that. If they have to, kind of write something that might be looked negative upon you, they might say no for that reason as well. So please ask a teacher. They do have the ability to say no. They do have the ability to turn it over in about 3 weeks, like we said, just to make sure that they fill out all of the appropriate documentation. You also must request a letter through Naviance, and your meeting with your counselor can show you how to do that as well. Other supporting documents are there might be some art portfolios or anything else that you might need, just fee waivers, things like that. There's a lot of other things that can be sent in with those documents, and all of this is really done after you hit submit to your application. The essays, once you and your teacher have kind of gone through and kind of created your essay for your homework assignment, you can kind of reach out to counselors, and we can help you walk through, like, if it's what schools are looking for. Like we said, 75% of it should be about how you're going through solving problems and kind of moving forward. There's a lot of different ways that you can go, a lot of different prompts, but just make sure that you understand that there is somebody reading this on the other side. I don't know of a school that asks you for an essay and does not have somebody reading it on the other end. Last, make sure that you connect with your counselor. We want to sit down, talk with you, walk you through the options. You can use Naviance. There is another video that you can watch for that. It's a single sign-on, and it's a great way to kind of start your process using the College Super Match. So once again, thank you guys for your time, and absolutely look forward to talking with you about your future plans.